So, hi everybody. Welcome back to another edition of the Own Your Own series. I'm so excited to have with us an award-winning producer, Jason Lee Phillips. I want you to first introduce yourself before I go down the list, which is can be easily researched. I want you to tell us about the adjectives that most intimately describe you.
Ooh, that's a good one. So, hey everyone, I'm Jason Phillips. I'm very grateful to be here today. I am a writer, producer, director. I was born in San Diego. I'm a triplet. I'm a part of the queer community, LGBTQIA+, and I'm very passionate about exploring queer stories and identities in my work. And I really love filmmaking because it gives me the chance to explore different stories, get to know different characters, and it also gives me a chance to get to know myself on a deeper level by exploring through story. And so I find it to be my life passion, and I'm very lucky to be able to be doing it.
So, speaking about getting to know yourself,
Mhm.
you have produced a series of films, and of course, having been a part of the production for Voodoo Macbeth, I would love to touch on that. But I think I always like to kind of talk about something that might not immediately, I think, come to the surface. And it was the vehicle of one of your senior films that focused on the story of a queer individual in film, and then you kind of used the film itself and the screening as a remarkable moment in your life as well. Tell us what went on with that.
Yeah, I'm assuming you're talking about Black Knuckle and Deputy Maltese. That was my senior thesis in school. It was a LGBTQI plus romantic comedy action adventure western about a deputy and outlaw that are in love. And when the outlaw is taken away by a group of bandits, this deputy has to ride to save his man. And that was one of the most fun projects I've ever had the pleasure of directing. It really made me fall in love with the western and the ability to flip a trope completely on its head. It's a genre that you wouldn't that gay characters have been fully excluded from. That was so fun to like reclaim in the queer space. And in a interesting way, like making that movie, I wasn't necessarily out to the rest of my extended family, so that movie they saw kind of was a stepping stone to that moment. And then actually that article actually ended up being like the confirmation for everybody, which is very funny in a lot of ways. So I most of my family I guess got it confirmed that I was gay through that article, which is a hilarious way for me to do it. But I like to like talk about myself in the films that I work in. So I think for me it was just a great way to like naturally come out rather than sitting everybody down and saying, "Hello everybody, now I will come out," which I don't really feel like is necessarily my responsibility to do for every person around me. And so it kind of gave me like a natural segue into that. And it was a fun one. I think it's good to be truthful with to who you are and the stories that you make, and that film definitely allowed me to do that, and I feel very lucky for that.
So you talk about confirmation to family, but the story in and of itself, right? I guess the gentleman in distress
Yeah.
in a very rugged environment, gender relationships aside, just showing that particularly a gentleman is in distress and in a position to be rescued is something that we don't often, I think, appreciate or even focus on from a psychological or just emotional point of view. So
Mhm.
I find that quite interesting. And, for the Hollywood Reporter to be the reporting authority on coming out, I'm not going to say it's special. And just, I think there are few maybe places that you can make a louder statement and
Yeah.
inform people all at once.
Yeah.
But yeah, there you have it. So the Hollywood Reporter followed you for about a year,
Yes.
right? So you were doing your work and working on a number of films, but also you were taking the class that is infamous for not only causing the creation of long lasting creative relationships, but I read about a fist fight.
A fist fight?
Not necessarily among your peers, but
We had
that
no fist
400
fight.
level class that's at the School of Cinematic Arts, that's just, I think, an opportunity to do great work, but can be really intense, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah, definitely intense. I mean, there's a lot of people coming to the table with different creative visions. I mean, and we'll get to this with Voodoo Macbeth because that also had a lot of different directors, writers, so many different voices coming into one project. Um, Honestly, my projects in that 400 level class were both very smooth. We had a very nice time together and it was very lovely. I think, where it becomes hard is like when you're forced to collaborate on such an intense level and everybody has a different vision in their head, sometimes that can lead to clashing in like what is the vision we're all looking for. But in terms of like the projects I was a part of, I was very lucky to have it be very smooth and wonderful. And I worked with some of the best people that I've had the pleasure of working with at USC, and are doing amazing things now. So um, I feel very lucky during that time. But yeah, there's always a little bit of like there's some tension when you're a young creative and you think you have the best idea of the room. Sometimes you're wrong, sometimes you're right, and that just happens. It's just kind of a part of the game of making things, and I think that happens probably throughout the entire industry from top to bottom. There's always going to be some level of like, you're fighting for what you believe in, and sometimes that causes a little bit of tension, and it's nothing personal. Sometimes it's just like, a creative bout.
I like to tell people, if you think you see drama on stage, wait till you figure out what happens behind the scenes.
Yeah.
There's kind of an ongoing machine of just ideas and exchanges, and different people with different ideals kind of trying to come to the middle and agree on something, right?
Yeah, totally. I mean,
So
that's like ultimately what it's about. It's about meeting each other where they're at and figuring out what the best vision is to help the story rather than help your own ego.
So, talking about egos, the USC School of Cinematic Arts has given us Ryan Coogler's. Um, if you look at the executive level studio professionals in LA, you name your pick. It's a very dominant force, but you were able to take a student level production,
Mhm.
and I think break some of the rules and barriers that I think people weren't even conscious of uh, in getting it signed for distribution. So, how do you feel about the theatrical release? And then, like, how did somebody turn, you know, a student film, which we knew was being managed and produced at a very professional level with, you know, world class actors, but how does one get this into distribution?
Ah, it feels really good to have it finally going into theaters, and then we'll see where it goes after that. I mean, it's how does one do it? It's a lot of work. It's putting your pedal to the metal every single day, and every morning you wake up, even in your hardest moments when you feel like just giving up and just moving on, just going on to your next project. It's knowing that like you won't learn everything you need to learn from a project until you've seen it all the way through as far as you possibly can go. And I had a mentor in high school who his name Destin Daniel Cretin, who now does he did Shang-Chi and the Legends of the Ten Rings, Short Term 12. He's done a ton of big movies. He's doing the next Avengers movie, and he taught me for my last 2 years of high school as a guest artist in our film program. And one of the things that he said to us was that if you don't finish your project, you're never going to learn everything. And that's kind of what I was just saying now. And that kind of instilled in me this work ethic to always take my projects to the final ending point just to see what more I can learn and how far I can go. And, I think definitely some people were surprised to see how far we were able to end up taking Voodoo Macbeth. But, with every surprise, there's a smile most of the time. And so I think we're all very excited in the end. And the way I looked at Voodoo Macbeth always was, I mean, we have a mix, like we have some students involved in the project, some alumni involved in the project. So I always looked at Voodoo Macbeth as just a movie. Whether you have the word student, no student, like I usually drop that and just focus on the fact that we're making a story. And Voodoo Macbeth's story is so important, and it's, you know, a tragedy that this story isn't more well known up front. Like a lot of people that came to the movie didn't even know that this ever existed. And I didn't know it existed when I first read the script. I was like, wow, I can't believe I haven't heard about this. I know theater, and how do I not know about this notoriously amazing production? Uh,
Right?
Groundbreaking.
What do you think is behind that?
Oh, I mean, that's like systemic erasure of like African American cultures, and it's like, you look at history books and you see just certain groups of people completely erased. And I think that's a major problem. I think, I mean, yeah, this gets into a very deep, world of erasure of culture, and especially in modern media. Um, and I think that's a huge problem. And we need to be celebrating the stories in Black theater and queer theater and different groups of people that were achieving monumental things in the 20s, 30s, and 40s that we kind of just go, oh, it never happened, and then move on from that. Like, we need to be examining those stories and bringing those stories to life because people in marginalized communities have been doing amazing things for so many years, and it's time to really be elevating those voices and those stories.
So, in my process of, just also preparing for this panel, I think I looked at a bit more of what Rose McClendon, who's, the
Yeah.
lead in the film, and her role just in theater in the country, right? Creating
Yeah.
theaters in 11 cities. And at the time, they used the term Negro, but knowing that these were theatrical outlets that were created in a space where people who were black were not allowed in in the other well-resourced spaces, right? So this was something that was done out of a necessity to meet a need.
Yeah.
But that she did it in 11 different cities, right? Is pretty prolific. It wasn't a one-time after school
Yeah.
summer program. And I think to your point about erasure, it's like, why am I not, in my theater class in high school, also being informed about this as well, right? So seeing
Yeah.
that it becomes so insidious that even in my upbringing in the Caribbean, where we're very much a majority black community, even my instructors and being very very well versed, right, in everything Caribbean, might have missed out on an opportunity to feature someone like Rose McClendon in the introduction to the other portions of theater, right? Because you
Yeah.
have the onstage, but as someone who created theaters and theater, they call them the Negro theater units in across 11 cities. There's a certain level of organization, production, bookkeeping, and
Yeah.
just simple proficiency in managing people and managing relationships, right?
Mhm.
So it shows you all these other facets to the business and looking at it as an entertainment business as opposed to just maybe an activity or a pastime, right?
Yeah. I mean, not to mention Rose was an amazing actress on the Broadway stage in the 20s and 30s. Like, that's also amazing. Like, I mean, I'm ready for the Rose McClendon biopic, if you ask me. I think that is like, I just think that needs to be made. She's such an incredible woman, and you know that there's even more to uncover about her life, um, that hasn't been shown. I mean, yeah, I'm personally, I'm just ready to see that movie.
So when are we starting the first meeting on this working name, Rose?
The Rose
Because
McClendon biopic.
I heard work in progress, and I'm a glutton for adding new things to the plate. So you can be in distribution for one film and be working and developing one of your many to be distributed.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't done any work on a Rose McClendon biopic, but, I think that needs to be made. So anyone watching out there, if you got some money, let's put it into development because this story needs to be made now. And she's an amazing woman that deserves all the spotlight. And we really need to start digging into it.
So I think we know that the story resonates, right? You've had a great festival run with 20 festivals and
Yeah.
many award wins, including Best Film, Best Production, Best Actress,
Yeah.
right? So individuals are drawn to not just the full production, but the stories that are being shared. And so then it begs the question, how does your team in particular happen upon this story at the time of your senior thesis? Because I think we heard tons about the direction work of Orson Welles, and that would have been easily an easier path to pursue.
Yeah. So I think so I came back as an alumni for this one to produce this project, and the original idea came with John Watson, who is the kind of he's an executive producer and also a faculty coordinator for the entire production, and he heard it from another teacher at the program, Steve Albrezzi, who was like, "Hey, have you heard about Voodoo Macbeth?" John did some research on Voodoo Macbeth, assembled a team of writers, the top writers at USC, and they all came together to form the story based off of
Mm.
all the research they did together. So it's kind of like the inception of it. They had like a writer's room where they worked together to weave all these different stories together. It's quite a big ensemble piece, which we're very proud of. I mean, you all got to see this movie. The actors in this film are just phenomenal. It's just, I feel very lucky to have worked with each person on this movie. Um, but yeah, that's how kind of, sorry, I went on a total tangent there just to give
No,
some
you're giving us kind of the origin story of the retelling of the story.
yeah, so then they pulled it all together, and then I came onto the project once the first draft of the script had been completed. Then we brought on my other two producers, well, the other producers came on with me, um, Ivy Shao and Miles Alva, and then we got all the directors on board, and then 3 months later, we were shooting the movie, and we were on the Warner Brothers backlot, shooting every night. Um, so it's kind of like the general pathway that we took to get there, but it's just I don't know the I think this story resonates with people because I think it leaves every person again asking the question we were just talking about of like how have I never heard of this? How have I never seen a movie about this before? How is this not everywhere? And I think that's what really resonates with people.
You've given the production work, I think, a good bit of your time and energy.
Yeah.
And to that effect, we've seen another one of your pieces receive distribution
Mhm.
during a pandemic. You
Yeah.
tell us about, okay, what are the vitamins and special prayers? And also,
Okay, magic is a big thing. You gotta will what you want in life
okay,
to the table. I believe in that. I call it good word magic. I speak what I want and I really keep going until I get it. Yeah, Safer at Home was a movie that was made during the pandemic and it was done all through Zoom, which was a crazy experience. Basically, we'd be setting everything up and then we would leave the house and then the actors would come in and we would, AD and the director would direct through Zoom. Each actor would press record on their own camera. And I didn't actually secure distribution for that one. That one was my the producer Bo Youngblood, who I've worked with a lot, who's incredible. Kind of negotiated that whole process. But what is the secret vitamin?
is it persistence? Is it a
It's
combination of
persistence.
the professional push, right? Establishing yourself by doing projects, but
Yeah,
also you have the USC brand, and also just being able to convince, I think, some of your peers and
yeah,
and people decades ahead of you that you could meet the
yeah.
requirements for the job.
I mean, I think, one, definitely persistence is key. That's something that's always going to get you to the place you want to be, every day working on it. I think the other thing is like, I've worked so much on set. So when I come to the table and I talk about what I want to do, I have the experience to know what I'm talking about. And I think that like helped me a lot. I've production assisted on tons of sets. I've done all different types of positions in every different department. I've acted in things. I've tried to get to know as many different areas of the filmmaking business so that when I'm talking to anyone, I have some understanding of what I'm actually talking about. I've been an assistant, I've been a producer, director, writer, like grip, key grip, like all these different roles. And actually, I don't think I've been a key grip, but I have been a grip. Um, But all those different roles really diversify your resume, but also your understanding of the filmmaking process, which becomes so important in trying to get your things made.
So you're now at a point where you can kind of point to some successes and you have a sense for just how the full production works. As you've pointed to, you've kind of done all of the roles and have an appreciation at least. Even on Voodoo, being a part of our background, being a part of our setting the scene, kind of filling in and out of all the roles.
Yeah.
Um, do you feel like it grows a sense of empathy when you're in position of directing or even producing another production? Because there are a lot of personalities involved in bringing any project together, but then you also have, I think, sometimes a bevy of people who are accustomed to being managed and dealt with in a certain way because they're not number one on the call sheet and they do not have the production power or the producer title, right?
Yeah. I think the two most important traits on any set are respect and honesty. I think if you don't have those two, then you're on a slippery slope downhill because how can people trust one another when you're talking to each other? I think, yeah, I don't know, you gotta respect every department. Everyone brings a different creative art to the table, and the more you allow for each individual's art to be expressed, the greater the power of the piece that you're gonna get at the end is. Um, it's even to the fact of like, if I can see that the art team is looking really tired and they're not getting enough sleep, I'll make sure we get them an Airbnb that's nearby so they can sleep. And then they know that they're being provided for. Because if people know that you have their backs at all times, they're going to push harder to get the best project made. And they know, and then on the flip side of that, they know that I'm not going to stop until I have the best project made on my own end. Like I'm not going to ask them for their best work if I'm not going to give my best work in return. And I think that you establish that trust and honesty with one another, it becomes a very like symbiotic working relationship rather than like a dictator and a person following the dictator. I don't know what that word is, but you know what I mean? Like I don't lead like that. I don't lead by just sitting on my throne and I say, "Please do this," and I walk away. I say, "Let's do this. How can I help? What can I unload in the truck with you? Do we need more background? Great, I'll sit there. Where do I need to sit? How can I help you? Like you're hungry? Okay, where can I order you food? Like how can I make you feel comfortable, safe, and at home for you to express the best version of your art?"
And I think I can attest to that in some ways. The voodoo experience was definitely outstanding for me, just because I think maybe because people were closer to the peers, and so it was a mix of personal and professional relationships. But we were able to, I think, get a lot done
Yeah.
in a time that we were able to, and as you working with a student budget is definitely a push. So post production is its whole separate animal, right?
Yes.
Writing and shooting, I think, are the often popularized part of
Yeah.
a film. But you are also a post production producer on this, and what were the nuts and bolts of getting that process through, and how long did it take?
Oh, I mean, we're still doing some things just to, finalize and change some last minute things. Post-producing is really hard. It is not something that I'd been very well versed in before doing this. So, that's the example of you finish a project until it's at its ending point and you learn what you need to learn. And that is what I'm learning right now. Bringing a full feature to delivery to the theater is, a lot of challenges. I mean, honestly, the things I've learned the most in this post process is like just technical terms, like learning what different exports are needed, um, learning like the word EDL, edit decision list, and that export and what that is. Um, I mean, there's just so many like small details in post production that, if you don't know, it's just kind of like speaking a foreign language. You're just like, I don't have any idea what that acronym means. Can somebody please explain? And I was never afraid to ask. Throughout the entire post process, I've always been like, Hey, thanks so much. I can totally send you this over. Can you first explain to me what it is that you need? Because I don't understand the sentence that you wrote in that prior email, and I don't want to send you something random.
It's like you sent me jargon. I'm
Yeah,
not specialized yet in this field.
yes,
Please
I don't
translate to lay terms. English. English that I understand.
like, what do you need? Do you need movie? I will provide. Like, it's like my
It's
robot voice
humbling.
to answer this. It's so humbling. I've been on Zoom calls before where they're asking for all these different things. I'm like this. Uh-huh. And they're like, no, that was a question. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's a question. I don't know the answer because I don't even understand the question. I think it's important for all young filmmakers to know that it's okay not to know the answer right away. And, even if you've worked for many years in the industry, it's okay still not to know the answer. If you need to ask a question, ask it. You're better off asking and learning the correct answer than trying to figure out on your own and then end up doing something wrong and then having to redo it and reset the whole timetable. I've definitely done that throughout this process where I've been like, no, no, I got this. And then I go through like a month of work and then I send it over and they say, this isn't what I need at all. Thank you so much. And I go, great, I just wasted a month. That's nice. That is a good learning experience too. But, after a certain point, it's better just to ask the question, learn it quickly, and then keep going. Um, I mean, that's also like the idea of checking your ego at the door. You don't always know everything. And if you assume you know everything, you're gonna pay for it later.
Yeah. Stand down for your ego is absolutely the new motto. Stand up for yourself, but stand down for your ego because that I don't know, that phenomenon, it's not even just a person, it's a whole other thing that puts you into this space where you can't even see sometimes if you're underwater. You
Yeah.
can't even tell how much of in need you are, how much of a mess you're making of things. And so definitely we want to, we're not canceling egos, but we're definitely putting them to bed.
Yeah, the ego definitely has a place, like it can support some of your best ideas when everyone tells you no. It can help that confidence. That's when the ego becomes like hurtful to other people or to yourself that it becomes dangerous. It's not doesn't supply you with what you're needing.
You
Or when the
mentioned,
ego, oh, go ahead.
go ahead.
Or when the ego becomes blinded, like you just want your vision to work rather than listening to anybody else to see if their thoughts can actually make a collective vision stronger. um yeah.
You mentioned the ego being hurtful to yourselves, and a theme that I've had across the people who participate in this series is uh, making sure that we can meet the challenges of work, which we know entertainment is a series of marathon days, marathon
Yeah.
weeks or months, maybe marathon years.
Years. Yeah. I mean, I'm big on self-care.
How are you managing it? Because you're in multiple productions, you're directing, you're writing, you're producing. After
Yeah.
you do the directing and writing and producing, you still have to look at the product for quality control. You also have to make sure that all the parties who are engaged are properly papered up. So you're making sure that legal is fine, that all the agreements still stand, that you're meeting all of the requirements that the prospective distributor could potentially want. And then you're meeting the requirements of the people in your personal life, right? Like,
Yeah.
and it's easy to tell everybody at home no, because you can't just tell everybody at work no, not now, later, wait. So how do you manage that?
This has been a long journey of learning this one. There's like a couple year period where I put my entire self to the side and I only worked. And then when I came out of that, it was actually right at the beginning of the pandemic that forced me to reconsider my entire life and who I was. And I realized that I just poured myself so much into work that I gave no room for actual self growth. And I attributed myself to my work rather than myself and my work as separate entities. Um, and I think it's important for every person to find their outlets outside of work that can fulfill you. I love to hike. I love to make gigantic collages. I like to go on runs. I like to walk. I like to sit in parks. I know I like to read in parks. It's about taking that time every single day or week at least to find some time for self and to take an hour just to be alone or a big thing for me was Julia Cameron's The Artist Way. I did that 12-week period and or 12-week process, and it fully opened the doors of self for me. Um, and she does a thing that she suggests calling an artist date, where during that 12 weeks, once a week, you take yourself on a little date. So you can take yourself to dinner, you can take yourself to a show, you can take yourself to do a ceramics class. It's all about filling your creative cup with things outside of things you're being paid for or that you feel like you need to do. It's allowing your inner child to play. Um, and so, yeah, I think it's
And
so
play
important.
we must. So, if you
Yes,
could design your next dream project, or
yes,
if there's anything you can share with us, but you can also
yeah.
use the opportunity to shout out to the next potential partner who you want to collaborate with, what direction do you think you want to go in? What capacity will best serve Jason right now? And, how do you want to go about it with this newfound, I think, work towards balance, not necessarily executing it every day, but the new approach to work.
Um, you know, I've really just been taking projects that fill my cup, that make me smile at the end of the day, and when I'm frowning, I still laugh that I'm frowning at it because I do still enjoy it. I've been writing a lot. I'm writing a musical right now with the actual with Jewel, who played Orson Welles in Voodoo Macbeth. We met on that movie, and then we kind of became fast friends and started working on a musical together. And if anyone's out there that's looking to give money for development funding for musicals, we have a dark comedy musical coming up about the obsession with fame in modern culture and the destruction that that can bring to the mental psyche when you position fame as a goal rather than your art as a goal. If you
Hmm.
position fame as love rather than meaningful connections with the people that are right around you, which is kind of what we're just talking about, with self love. It's like you don't need thousands of people to love you. You don't need to be an influencer. You don't need to be, an A-list celebrity. If you have some core people around you that really care about who you are and you care about them, that's real love. Um, and so I'm working on that with that project. And then, we also poke some fun at the Catholic Church, which is very fun. Um, you
Is
know,
that what the Instagram post is about? Because I was like, I'm not Catholic, but I catch a theme here.
which Instagram post?
Well, there's one that gave a very Catholic robe
Oh,
with
yes,
with
yes,
a
for
red
my
pump.
Halloween. Yes,
A red
yes,
pump was involved, and as a
yes,
shoe
yeah.
lover, the
Oh,
first
yes,
thing I saw were the pumps, and then
yes,
other details, and then
yes,
it
yes.
wasn't until maybe other iterations of coming back to the page where I realized, oh, okay.
My gay rainbow palpal staff you is what you mean?
So the papal staff, you have some red pumps that match your red
Oh,
robe
yes, I do.
with full beard, mustache.
Yes.
And I thought, okay, so someone maybe had a Catholic rebellion piece that they're stirring up, but
Yes.
I don't like to ask people about their religion. I just
Yeah. That is a little hint at something that is cooking up in my brain and with Jewel. And I like putting little Easter eggs in my life for myself. Um, it's a little bit of a branding thing, I guess you could say. That
okay.
Halloween costume was a very gay pope was my costume for that. And I loved it. Those heels were extremely uncomfortable, but that's what you get when you buy, $40 heels at a place that don't make shoes for men's feet. So,
Yeah, and then
yeah.
the discomfort kind of comes in the heel category more often than not.
Yes.
I've some of my most painful shoes have been the most expensive ones, so it's not even the price. Sometimes I'm convinced that depending on how invested they are in fit models, really giving honest feedback and having it,
Yeah.
tested over time, not just over the moment of stick your foot in it for 2 seconds and then tell us how it fits. I don't know how much thought goes into making it comfortable. So
But if the
Yes,
look
sir.
is right, the look is right.
I mean, we pay for vanity. All exorbitant prices that vanity charges, we sign up and we pay. I'm hoping, as you know, as I grow more, to pay less and less. But here we are in all the discomfort. But
Yeah.
I am so excited to see the next project. To know that you and Jewel are collaborating. You've told us that it's just, persistence, perseverance, and like showing up to the work, to do the work, and maybe also showing up for yourself so you can be better at the work.
Yes, amen. That is what we need to start focusing on. I think the idea of the suffering artist is a trope that we need to dismantle. You don't need to be unhappy to create. You can be full of life and excited and smiling and make the best work possible.
And with that, I want to thank you so much, Jason, for sharing with us and for giving us some cues and clues from behind the scenes of how you came together, with the team to bring this project from the script to the screen, now to theatrical distribution. I am so excited, and not only from the viewpoint of someone who saw it in the process, but I think someone who eagerly wants for media to be available that helps with the education and promotion around the instrumental work that has been done, especially by Black women.
Yeah.
And so, with that, I thank you and I am grateful.
Oh, I'm grateful for you. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for all your work on Voodoo Macbeth. I'm just very grateful for you.